20 gorillas, one leader, 15 years together. And when the keepers found him that morning, they knew they had maybe an hour before the troop discovered what had happened. An hour to prepare for chaos, for confusion, for violence as the males fought for dominance. But when the first gorilla entered that shelter and saw what was inside, what happened next wasn't chaos at all. It was something scientists never thought gorillas were capable of.
Before watching, subscribe for more touching stories like these. And I'm curious, write in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is.
5:23 a.m. Michael O'Dara had been a gorilla keeper for 18 years, and he'd learned to trust his instincts. This morning, something felt wrong. He was doing his usual pre-dawn rounds at the Karasoke Mountain Gorilla Sanctuary in Rwanda, checking the enclosures before the troop woke up. Everything seemed normal. The feeding stations were stocked. The water sources were clean. The perimeter was secure. But when he approached the main sleeping shelter, he noticed something. Silence. Usually by this time he could hear soft sounds from inside. Grunts, breathing, the occasional infant's whimper. This morning, nothing. Michael moved closer to the observation window of the sleeping shelter, and his blood went cold. Khufu, the massive 40-year-old silverback who'd led this troop for 15 years, was lying in his nest, completely still. Too still. "No," Michael whispered. He grabbed his radio with shaking hands. "Base, this is Michael. I need the vet at the main enclosure immediately, and someone called Dr. Walsh." "What's the situation?" Michael's voice cracked. "I think we lost Khufu." 15 minutes later, the vet confirmed it. Khufu had died during the night. Heart failure, natural causes. Michael looked at his watch. 5:47 a.m., less than an hour before the troop woke up. He grabbed his phone and called Dr. Sarah Walsh. "Get here now," he said. "We need to document what happens when 20 gorillas discover their leader is dead." Dr. Sarah Walsh arrived at 6:15 a.m. She'd been studying this troop for 10 years, but she'd never witnessed what happened when gorillas lost their leader. "How much time do we have?" Sarah asked, setting up cameras. "Maybe 30 minutes, Michael said. "Maybe less." Sarah's hands were shaking. In 10 years studying this troop, she'd never witnessed what happened when gorillas lost their leader. "What do you think they'll do?" Michael asked. "I don't know. The younger males might fight for dominance. It could get violent." They waited. 6:32 a.m., movement in the enclosure. Nya, the eldest female, emerged first. Behind her, juveniles tumbled out, playing. More followed, yawning, stretching. A normal morning, 12 awake. 8 still sleeping, including Jabari, Khufu's 12-year-old son. 6:41 a.m. Jabari emerged, massive for his age, already showing silver on his back. He looked toward Khufu's sleeping shelter, waiting for his father to emerge, but the shelter remained empty. Jabari tilted his head, then began walking toward it. "Here we go," Michael whispered. Sarah leaned forward, her hand on the camera controls. Jabari reached the entrance to Khufu's shelter, paused, then ducked inside. Sarah held her breath. 5 seconds. 10, 15. Then, a sound erupted from the shelter. Not a roar, not a scream, something else entirely. A low, guttural vocalization that Sarah had never heard in 10 years of studying gorillas. It was the sound of something breaking, the sound of a heart shattering. Jabari emerged from the shelter. His posture was completely wrong. Hunched, folded inward. His eyes were wide, unfocused. His mouth was open, and he made that sound again, louder. Across the enclosure, every single gorilla froze. The juveniles stopped playing mid-wrestle. Nya's hands stilled in the middle of her morning grooming. Amina, nursing her infant, looked up sharply. Even the youngest babies went completely silent. Everyone was looking at Jabari, and Jabari was making a sound none of them had ever heard before. A call, a summons, an announcement of something terrible. Nie was the first to move. She stood slowly and began walking toward the shelter. Not running, not rushing, walking, deliberately, as if she already knew. The others followed, one by one. Tano, one of the subadult males, Rafiki, Batu, Amina with her infant still at her breast. The juveniles came last, hesitant, confused, but they all came, all 20 members of the troop, moving toward Khufu's shelter in complete silence. "They're not fighting," Michael said, his voice filled with wonder. "They're not panicking. They're going to him," Sarah finished. One by one, the guerrillas entered the shelter. Sarah switched between camera angles, trying to see inside, but the shelter's entrance was too narrow. She could only wait and watch as one by one the guerrillas emerged, changed. Nya came out first, head lowered. She walked to the clearing and sat. Tano emerged next, then Rafiki, then Batu, each taking a position, forming a circle. When the last gorilla, little 5-year-old Kazi, emerged, Sarah realized what was happening. They'd all seen Khufu. They all knew. And now they were gathering, together, in complete silence. "Sarah," Michael whispered, "they're—" "I know." 20 gorillas sat in a circle around the entrance to Khufu's shelter. No vocalizations, no movement, just silence. Sarah had studied gorilla communication for a decade. She knew they were capable of dozens of vocalizations, chest beating, gestures, complex socials, interactions. But this communal silence, she'd never seen anything like it. It was deliberate, intentional, it was grief. The silence lasted for 17 minutes. Sarah documented every second. The way the gorillas positioned themselves, the spacing between them. The fact that the oldest members sat closest to the shelter, the youngest furthest away. An order, a hierarchy, even in mourning. Then, at 7:04 a.m., Jabari stood. He walked back into the shelter, alone. When he emerged 30 seconds later, he wasn't alone anymore. 3 other males emerged with him. Tano, Rafiki, Batu, the 4 largest males in the troop, and they were carrying something. "Oh my God," Sarah breathed. The 4 males were carrying Khufu's body, each one supporting a portion of the massive silverback's weight. Tano and Rafiki at the shoulders, Jabari and Batu at the hips, moving in perfect synchronization. Carefully, gently, as if Khufu were still alive, and they were simply helping him walk. "Are they—" Michael couldn't finish the sentence. The 4 males began to move across the enclosure, not with their usual gorilla gait, not knuckle-walking or climbing, walking upright, slowly, deliberately, a procession. And behind them, the entire troop followed. Sarah rushed outside to see where they were going. From the vantage point, she watched the procession move across the territory. The 4 males in front, carrying Khufu, the rest of the troop behind them in formation. The eldest females first, Nie, then Amina, then Juma, then the subadults, then the juveniles walking in pairs. Even the mothers with infants joined, keeping their babies close. 20 gorillas, moving as one, following their fallen leader on his final journey. Sarah's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the camera steady. Where are they going? Michael had joined her, his own camera raised. Sarah watched through the lens, the eastern edge of the enclosure, the clearing beneath the large fig tree. Khufu's favorite spot, she whispered. For 15 years, Khufu had spent his afternoons there, sitting in the shade, watching over his family, resting. They were taking him home. The procession took 12 minutes to cross the enclosure. The four males never faltered, never rushed, never stumbled. When they reached the clearing, they gently lowered Khufu's body to the ground, positioned him on his side, as if he were sleeping beneath his tree. Then the four males stepped back, rejoined the circle that had formed around the clearing. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Jabari approached. He knelt beside his father's body, reached out with one massive hand, and touched Khufu's face. Sarah felt tears streaming down her own face as she documented the moment. Jabari's fingers traced Khufu's features, the broad nose, the deep-set eyes, the graying hair around his muzzle. Features Jabari had known his entire life. Jabari stayed there for 3 minutes, his hand on his father's face. Then he sat back, and one by one, the other gorillas approached. Nia came first. The eldest female knelt beside Khufu and touched his chest, made a soft vocalization, so quiet Sarah almost couldn't hear it through the recording equipment. A goodbye. Then Amina approached. She brought her 2-year-old infant with her, lifted the baby's tiny hand, and placed it gently on Khufu's arm, teaching her child to say goodbye, teaching her about loss, about respect, about family. Sarah's vision blurred. One by one, every member of the troop approached Khufu. Every single one touched him. The juveniles were hesitant, their touches brief, uncertain. But they came. The subadult males were stoic, their touches firm, deliberate, a sign of respect for the leader who taught them everything. The females were gentle. Some stayed longer than others. Some made soft vocalizations. Others remained silent. One by one, every gorilla said goodbye. When the last one touched Khufu's hand, the entire troop settled around the clearing, and stayed. The hours passed. The gorillas didn't move, didn't eat, didn't groom. They sat vigil around Khufu, protecting him even in death. As afternoon turned to evening, Michael asked, "How long will they stay?" Sarah shook her head. No one's ever documented anything like this. Night fell. The gorillas remained. No sleeping nests, no retreat. They stayed in the clearing. Some dozed, others stayed awake. None left. Sarah documented through the night. By dawn of the second day, she was exhausted. But this was history. She couldn't leave. The second day passed. By afternoon, some began to drift away. First the juveniles, then the subadults. By evening, only 9 remained. They stayed through the second night. By the morning of the third day, only Jabari remained, Khufu's son, sitting beside his father's body, alone. Sarah watched him throughout the third day. He didn't eat, didn't drink, just sat, occasionally reaching out to touch Khufu, as if hoping his father might still wake up. "He needs to eat," Michael said quietly. Sarah shook her head. "Not yet. This is important." The afternoon of the third day stretched into evening. The sun began to set, painting the sky orange and purple. And finally, Jabari moved. He stood slowly, his body stiff from 3 days of sitting. He looked down at Khufu's body for a long, long moment. Then he lifted his hands to his chest and beat. Once. A single, powerful chest beat that echoed across the entire enclosure. Not aggressive, not a display of dominance, a tribute. The sound carried through the valley. Sarah felt fresh tears on her face. Jabari lowered his hands, bent down one final time, placed his hand on Khufu's chest, a final touch, a final goodbye. Then he straightened, turned, and began walking away. His steps were slow at first, deliberate, each one seeming to cost him something. But he didn't look back. Not until he reached the edge of the clearing. There, he stopped, turned. One final look at the body of his father, the leader who had protected him, taught him, raised him. And then Jabari walked away, back toward the main enclosure, back to the troop, back to the living. The clearing was empty now, except for Khufu. That night, the sanctuary removed his body respectfully and gave him a proper burial in the forest he'd called home. Jabari stepped into the leadership role naturally. The troop accepted him without challenge, as if this had always been meant to be. But every morning for months, Sarah documented something remarkable. Jabari would visit the clearing where Khufu had been laid to rest, sit for 10 or 15 minutes, then return to the troop. Eventually, the visits became less frequent, but he never forgot. Nearly a year later, Sarah noticed Jabari moving toward the clearing again. This time, he was carrying an infant, his son, born 4 months earlier. Jabari walked to the exact spot where his father had died and sat down, holding his baby. Sarah watched through her camera, tears streaming down her face. Jabari sat there for 20 minutes, his infant son cradled in his arms, as if he were introducing them, as if he were saying, "This is your grandfather, the one who taught me everything, the family you are part of." When Jabari finally stood and walked away, Sarah understood something profound. The gorillas had shown the world that grief isn't unique to humans, that the need to honor those we've lost, to carry them with us, to introduce them to the next generation, is something we all share. 20 gorillas had proven that beneath everything, there beats a heart that knows love, and knows what it means to lose it. Did this story move you? If yes, write yes in the comments. A year later, Jabari brought his newborn son to the spot where his father died, as if introducing them. Do you believe he was honoring his father's memory? Yes or no? Write your answer. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Thanks for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.